Today I want to share with you 10 tips, wise tips for avoiding stress and all type of tensions. In order to exit this exhausting spiral of tensions, stress, anxiety, we often tend to overwhelm ourselves in our daily routine. It's necessary above all to become again the masters of our time. It requires a little bit of discipline and a little bit of effort, not too much. And also it requires, from a certain point of view, to build up positive routines. We all know that when we feel tensed or stressed, the easiest way to relax we find is to just take maybe 1 day or 2 off and simply enjoy relaxation. Of course, we can even take a longer vacation, but that is not always possible for us. So instead of waiting until the vacation is possible for us, it is much better that we apply these 10 simple but wise and efficient tips in order to avoid stress and tensions, because many times these tensions during our daily routine is the one creating even chronic stress. So tip number 1: let us firmly and clearly formulate deeply beneficial and creative goals. So, for example, at the beginning of each week, or even we can do it at the beginning of each day, we clearly formulate what we want to do that day or what we want to achieve that week. And of course, we can also do something even better. We can put them into 3 classes of priority. We can call them like that. For example, we will have priority goals, which are very important for us to reach. So they are on the top of the list. And then another category of goals for us will be imperatively necessary activities that we really need to do every day or every week, and then optional activity. Maybe in the beginning it will not be very clear for us what are priority goals, what is imperatively necessary for us to do as activities, and optional activity. But with a little bit of training, it will become more clear for us in which of the 3 categories we can place our daily activities. And also my suggestion is to focus upon number 1, so priority goals, and number 2, imperatively necessary activities, and to the best of our abilities to not focus our energy and time on optional activity. When there is time for them, very well, we can do them, but as long as there is no time for them, allocating our time and energy to optional activity will make us more stressed, because we will have less time for priority goals and activities which are imperatively necessary to do. Another tip number 2, is to constantly keep track of priorities and necessary actions. So the best thing to do is to write down our aims, our priorities and actions in a notebook or in an agenda. I know that at first it sounds like a waste of time, but it actually helps us have very clearly, precisely goals, and also it helps us formulate these goals much better. It also allows quite a high degree of self objectifying. We will be able to be objective with ourselves to a much higher degree when we really keep track of our priorities and actions in a notebook. We see them, we write them down. And also we can consult our notebook or agenda, especially when we are done with a certain activity and we are ready to achieve a new goal, because in this manner we will also be much more able to estimate if our initial assessment was fair. If, for example, in our assessment we were quite objective about how much time it will take, how much effort it will require, which steps were necessary. So at the end of an activity that we wrote down and we had, when we keep track of it, it will make things more and more clear for us. We will be more and more able to know exactly which steps to take, exactly or almost exactly how much time we need to allocate to different actions, and it will also make clear for us which abilities we need to use more, which abilities we need to adjust a little bit more, how we can make things work even better. Tip number 3. This is a super efficient tip in order to avoid stress, but it's not one of the easiest ones. It requires that we leave our personal ambitions aside and instead increase a profound state of detachment. And this, for example, in all spiritual detachment, in all spiritual traditions, detachment, this state of almost perfect detachment, is one of the main goals, because it means you put aside your ego and instead you have noble ideals at heart. With the actions that you do and with the goals that you are having, you actually do not consider yourself to be the author of the action. You are totally involved, you put your heart and soul in it, but you are not putting your ego in it. And this is not something which is very easy to do for the majority of people. But that will really help us a lot not to get stressed. And now I will tell you a secret. What is that makes us stressed? It is exactly this attitude, this mindset, this mind frame that we consider ourselves to be the author of the actions. We involve ourselves egotically in whatever we do. And we even believe, we even, from a certain point of view, we think that we have the power to do almost everything. Yes, from an angle, but when we think of physical actions or even mental activity, we are limited beings. We have a limited amount of energy, a limited amount of abilities. So even if we aspire to do things in a perfect manner, until we reach perfection, there is a little bit of path left to walk. So when we say, I will do that, and we put our ego into it, it narrows a lot our abilities. It contracts us. It will make us stressed. But if instead we have this type of mindset, I will do my best. I will use to the best my abilities in order to fulfill this activity or action, but we are not egotically involving us in it, it will lower the levels of stress tremendously. Another tip, tip number 4, we need to make sure that we estimate well the time needed for our activities, because many times what makes us stressed is that we think it will take me half an hour to do this activity, and we don't actually put a little bit of extra time, because honestly speaking, we don't know even what will happen with us in 5 minutes from now. So thinking that it will take us half an hour to do a certain activity and not put an extra time for unforeseen situations, it will many times show us that we were wrong. So instead of putting a deadline or a time frame which is too small, it's always good to have a little bit of extra time when we plan things. And in this manner, we will always be able to handle quite well, to manage quite well, when situations, actions, activities don't go the way we thought of them, we planned. We have this extra time in our management pole, so to say. So we will be able to make use of it and don't get stressed by it. Tip number 5. Let us manage the time available for communication with others as well as possible. We are social beings. We need to interact with each other. We need to communicate with each other. It's very important, and especially when you are in a community of people at work with a team. Of course, you need to communicate. You also need to communicate with your friends, with your family, with your dear ones. And we need to do that with, if possible, a very balanced measure, not too little, because it will affect our relationships, but not too much either. So we don't have to exaggerate and spend hours and hours of chit chat, chatter, fall maybe into gossip, because that will definitely make us stressed, because we will not have enough time for, if you remember, priority goals, imperatively necessary activities that are on our list, that we were able to put them on our list. So yes, we need to speak with people. Yes, we need to communicate with people. Yes, it's important for our job and for our relations, but with measures, not too little, but not too much either. And that will also help us lower and avoid stress. Tip number 6, we need to make time for ourselves, because from no matter from which angle we look upon it, we really, if we are not able to take care of ourselves to a very good degree, so that our reservoirs of good emotions and energy and vitality and ideas is depleted, we will not be able to take care of others or to do our activities very well. So every single day, we just simply need some minutes, if we don't have a couple of hours, for ourselves, in which we can rest, we can be silent, we can practice something which helps us. For example, I practice yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, but do something for yourself every single day, because that will recharge your batteries. It will give you the necessary energy, the necessary inspiration, the necessary good feelings and brilliant ideas in order to carry on with your daily activities at home, at work, very well. So daily time for ourselves, it's actually an imperatively necessary activity. We can put it on that category of lists. Also, tip number 7, it helps a lot to make time to organize ourselves as well as possible. So even if at first glance it will seem like a waste of time or something which is completely boring, actually in reality it's something very valuable to organize ourselves as well as possible. So for example, files with documents that we didn't use in a long time, we need to place them in order, so whenever we will need them, it will be very easy to find them. Or in the computer, because nowadays there is less paper and much digital files. Files in the computer, organize them, put them in order, so whenever you need them, it will be very easy to access them, because you will know exactly where you put them. And when we do this on a regular basis, that we organize ourselves very well and we know exactly everything where it is, of course we will not be stressed when we need something and we don't find it, and we start looking all over the place, and we need to find it now because we need it now, but we cannot. So it seems like a waste of time, but actually in the long run it will save us loads and loads of time, and also it will save us a lot of stress and tensions. Tip number 8, it's very good to aim to honor our commitments that we have made. And now with the commitments, there is also an important aspect to think of. We can be very well intended and we can have a huge heart and we could want to help a lot of people. And in the same time, we really need to be very objective. We need to be very clear about how much can I actually help somebody else? How much can I actually do something for somebody else? So when we promise that we will help somebody with something, before we promise, think, is it really possible for me to help in that extent with that action? Or I took a little bit over, I took too much over me. Because when we promise that we will help with something, then we realize we don't have the necessary energy, we don't have the necessary inner resources. It will lower our self-confidence, it will tense us, it will stress us. So it's very good to think before we promise, how much can I actually do? So when we promise, it is very clear for us how much time I have, how much energy I have, to which extent I can help. And then after we promise, we will keep our promise. We will make sure that we keep our promise. Tip number 9. Seek to cooperate harmoniously with others. It's very seldom that whatever we do it by our own. It's very seldom that we usually collaborate with other people. We need the help of other people, and also we need to help other people. So it is a very wise piece of advice to think of. In our collaboration with other people, we also need to be clear about how much I need to help others and when it's the right time for it, and how much help I need from others and when it is the right time to ask for help. So in this manner, we will always have give and take in a balanced proportions, and also we will make sure that we do not deplete our own reservoirs of energies and that we don't expect from others to do too much for us in the collaborations with us. And tip number 10, which is one of the most important aspects, no matter if it is about stress, well-being, no matter what we do, we constantly need to aim to immediately eliminate any type of negative, harmful, disharmonious, evil thoughts and feelings. It is well known, and I'm sure that I'm not telling anything new now. Whenever we have negative thoughts and disharmonious, destructive feelings, they eat up our energy enormously. And how can we imagine that we will succeed if in our minds we entertain, so to speak, negative thoughts and we feel disharmonious feelings? Is this the right mindset? Is this the right inner ground for success? Of course, no. We already know that. So we need to make like a commitment to ourselves on a daily basis. As soon as we notice that we have negative feelings, just eliminate them as soon as we notice them, and instead put positive thoughts and beneficial feelings. And if you want a little bit of more tip in just in this direction only, take a look at my video, which is called 3 days challenge, because I speak there exactly upon this topic. So I hope that you will give these 10 pieces of advice a chance, that you will apply them practically and don't just take my word for it. Practice it and you will see that the results are more spectacular than expected.